loud and clear, and even though Ben wasn't the culprit, he knew he'd still be blamed. The springy slam of the old house's back porch screen door gave him hope for a possible reprieve. He held his breath until he heard the 426 cubic inches of Hemi roar to life. The loud engine powered the Rabid Dog's pride and joy, a mint 1966 Dodge Charger. First-year production owned by a first-rate bastard. Match made in hell. Ben pulled back a small section of tinfoil that covered the panes of glass in his room. He watched as the Charger turned onto the street, and he smiled in relief when the muscle car disappeared from sight. He stood there in sweet silence until his alarm clock's buzzer began applauding his rare moment of luck. Ben turned and raised his arm, pointing at the clock with his index finger, and concentrated hard, holding the pose for a few seconds until his determination finally gave way to a frown. And then, with a spot-on Yoda impression, he croaked, "Ah, father! Powerful Jedi was he. Powerful Jedi." Tommy Boone was stretched backwards in front of the living room space heater, with his close-cropped blonde cranium resting on the cheap-paneled wall behind him. Ben looked at Tommy leaning back and thought about how much he hated him. It was the same scene every cold morning. Tommy, with nothing but his skivvies on, standing with his bare legs only a foot away from the furnace's glowing ceramic blocks, hogging all the heat. "Faggot," Tommy said as Ben walked past. Ben didn't respond. He knew better. Tommy was the Rabid Dog's 16-year-old son from a previous marriage gone wrong, and that meant Ben wasn't even a half-blood in Tommy's eyes, which was fine by him. The truth of the matter was that Ben was thankful not to share the same gene pool with the biggest asshole this side of the Milky Way. "That's right, you little faggot. Keep walking," Tommy said, as he flexed his beefy pectoral muscles. He noticed Ben's eye and added with a laugh, "Want another shiner to match?" Ben gave Tommy no satisfaction of seeing an emotional response. Instead, he made his way to the kitchen corridor and shuffled across the cold linoleum floor to the pantry. He opened the small door and stretched to reach up for a box of cereal on the top shelf. He momentarily frowned from having to still tiptoe to accomplish the small feat, which was just one of his daily check-ins on his growth progress, or the lack thereof. Maybe tomorrow. Ben removed some dirty plates from the sink to expose the blue, thin plastic bowl he'd used the morning before. He dumped out the milky pool of water from the cheap dish and washed it with an icy stream that sputtered to life from the faucet. He wiped the bowl clean with a quicker picker-upper knockoff and poured some likewise knockoff Snap Crackle Pops, but hesitated before pouring the milk. Almost forgot. He took a spoon and methodically sifted through the small puffs of grain, picking out the dead weevils he found until he was satisfied he'd gotten them all. He found 3 of the black specks and lined them up on the counter in a way which made them resemble a tight formation of miniature mouse turds. Only 3 today. I think that's a record. Ben finished his breakfast, checked the time, and decided to look in on his mom. He walked down the hallway to a small master bedroom that reeked of spilled booze and stale cigarettes. Its wall color was supposed to be white, but looked more like the color of smoke rising from an old burning tire. Ben was about to knock on the bedroom door when he heard a noise coming from the hall bathroom behind him. The repetitious noise sounded like a quarterback sounding off a snap count in eerie slow motion. "Hut! Hut! Hut! Hut!" Ben had heard the sound many times and knew damn well it had nothing to do with football. Kneeling on the floor, hugging the only toilet the 1940s-era house afforded, was Angie Boone, Ben's mom. Her bleached blonde hair had declared civil war against its own dark roots, and the roots had started to gain the upper hand in the battle. She looked much older than her actual age, having a hardness to her complexion that came from years of self-neglect and substance abuse. Angie no longer used drugs, though. Jessup just wouldn't have it. Yep, Jessup Boone.